Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
There's nothing more exciting than hearing that music and my voice over that open on a Monday. Chuck, how are you?
I'm well, Matthew. I am well.
You're light, very soft-spoken today.
Yes, I'm just thinking about the amount of money that's going on at my house right now, or about to go on. So I'm a little subdued.
AC's out, you said?
Yes.
Well, it's a good thing it's not that.
Yeah, good time to do it.
Yeah, if your AC is going to go out, it's a good thing in October and not in April.
Accurate. So, like, it would be my plan then to wait till maybe February or March to get this fixed. But I don't think that's going to go very well at the house. So we are where we are, and we'll deal with what we need to deal with.
Thoughts are with you and your AC.
Yes,
unit.
thank you very much.
Matt Roy, Chuck McIntyre alongside Bob Gambert on the digital front. Javier behind the scenes over here, clicking buttons for us. This is Monday, October 21st, episode 144. Don Harris was going to join us, but he is at the Wemby press conference right now, so he'll be with us on Thursday, preview the Spurs season. But before we get started, I want to remind everyone, subscribe to the YouTube channel, News 4 and Fox SA, if you're so inclined. Also, go to your favorite podcast app, download, rate, review the podcast, give us a 5-star rating. That'd be great. The NBA season finally upon us, Chuck, starts tomorrow. We'll talk about a few of the headlines, especially when it comes to the Spurs. They start their season on Thursday. Cowboys and Mike McCarthy coming back from their bye now. Mike McCarthy saying a few interesting or lack thereof things at his press conference this morning. We'll talk about him, his take on the Troy Aikman comments that we saw this past week. And lastly, the Roadrunners might be the most injured team in all the land. They just suffered another blow to someone that both of us really, really like in JT Clark. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But first, I want to get to trivia. I shortened this question so it would fit on the super there, Javier. 3 NBA players have won the MVP award in their second season in the league. Who are they? Victor Wembanyama is the impetus for this question. He is 7th in terms of odds for the MVP this year. So I gave you a little bit of time to think about it. I told you the question 20 minutes ago, but I planned this question knowing that Don was going to be here, because I knew that he would have a little bit better of a chance than you. No offense.
There was no offense taken.
No, I knew that he would have a little bit of a better chance at this question. So, Bob, feel free to chime in too if you have the answer to this question. Who is the last? Or there have been 3 NBA players who have won the MVP award in their second season in the league. Who are they? The hint I gave Chuck was it's not recent.
It's not recent.
It's not recent. So I'll give everyone a little bit of time to think about it.
Was it Bingo Smith from the Cavaliers?
It was not the Bingo Smith. It was not LeBron James, which is someone I knew that you might guess.
Those were cool uniforms back in the day when Bingo Smith played.
I'll give everyone a little time to think about that one. Let's talk about the Spurs first. We'll get to the trivia question here in a second. So obviously, Spurs home openers on Saturday. Their season openers on Thursday at Dallas, 6:30 on TNT. ESPN and a lot of the mainstream media all over Wemby, all over him to kind of tabbing him to make this giant leap, which I think we all expect him to make a leap. But they're putting him as the 11th ranked player in the entire league right now, coming into his second season. He's 7th in terms of the MVP odds. He's the favorite to win the Defensive Player of the Year, which that one I feel like is pretty normal. He probably will be for the next 10 years as long as he stays healthy. Are we kind of putting the cart before the horse with Victor?
Yeah, in some ways.
Maybe not us, but everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little earlier off microphone, where it seems like the NBA and its broadcast partners are doing everything they can to build an image or a brand around Victor at an early age and, start building that brick or that house one brick at a time. So probably in some cases, yes, but as we also talked about too, based on how he closed last year and how clearly opposing offenses were attacking the Spurs and staying out of the paint as much as possible, some of this is just. So, based on what he did at the end of last year, the fact that he has a year under his belt, there'll be less probably trying to figure out what exactly is best that he does early on. He's probably, I would think, get off to a lot better start than he did last year at this time.
I think both or two things can be true at the same time. One, he ended last year great, and the expectation of him this season is through the roof, as it should be. But two, are we putting too much pressure on a young man to take a sophomore leap? Yes, I think that we as a media entity, not maybe just us, but ESPN and Fox Sports and all of them, are also putting a little bit too much pressure on him to carry this team to a point that they haven't been to in 6-7 years. I mean, we're expecting Victor to be the savior, to be the new face of the NBA and potentially the global face of the NBA as Giannis goes on to the back half of his career and Nikola Jokic goes on the back half of his career. LeBron is a year or two away from retirement. Victor is going to be that next global face, and the entire NBA, it seems, is pushing him and ramming him down everyone's throats. And right now, he's still a 20-year-old kid that just needs to come out and play.
Right. I'm with you on all that. But I think, if there's anybody equipped mentally and, maturity-wise to be able to handle everything that's coming from the outside, it's Victor. It seems like everything else has pretty much been compartmentalized at this point. And even though outside entities want to make it all about the sizzle and the dash and the flash, I think he's done a pretty good job of managing all that stuff, the demands on his time with the endorsements and, all the other things that he's involved with outside of playing basketball. But again, some of this, if he's to be the face of the league at some point, will be because there are other people that play well around him and they're winning ball games. Ultimately, if you're going to have the third worst or the fourth worst or the fifth worst record in the entire NBA, that stuff on the outside is only going to matter to a certain point. And if you want it to grow exponentially, the only way that's going to happen is if they win ball games.
To that point, I mean, acquiring Chris Paul, acquiring Harrison Barnes, some of the other acquisitions and moves that they have made this offseason, Stephon Castle now being that defensive-minded guard that's going to be kind of the heir apparent to Chris Paul, probably at the point guard position. A lot of these moves have been made to make this team better around Victor. So, yes, his leap is going to be the biggest part of why this team is better, in my opinion, that this team will be better this season. But those moves to make him better, to improve his stats, his playing style, and more catering to that is also going to be a big factor as to why this team is better. And if we're just looking at Victor as a whole, his greatness, we can't talk about his greatness if they're a 22-60 ball club.
Agreed. And I think too, broader in that same vein, I guess, is that they brought in these veteran guys to help teach him some of the ways to play better with other people.
And the other players.
Right. And exactly right. So I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see how the older veteran guys, what their roles end up being, and then how much of this was, for them as ball players, but also for those in the locker room too, to learn how this is how you do it. This is how we play better together. This is how everybody benefits if we play a certain way, not just Victor, but everybody else on that roster. So, again, do I think to your point, that's, part of why that this was all done.
You've seen it already too, because Stephon Castle was asked about Chris Paul and how much he talks, even when he's not playing, how much he talks to the other players and teaches other players on the bench or on the floor when he's playing, or if he's not playing. You saw that at the scrimmage on Saturday. And so that intangible can't be measured. And so Chris Paul's impact on the floor is one thing, but impact to the other players in the locker room or their mentality or how they're learning the game, how they learn spacing, how they learn to get open, all of that stuff, that can't be measured by Chris Paul's statistics. All of that is going to come in the win-loss column.
Right. And I think just based on the small sample size that we got during the preseason, I think it's pretty apparent that Castle knows how to play basketball, right? Not just individually, but he plays well with others. He makes the right pass. He sees the floor. He's thinking a play or two or a pass ahead in everything that he does. And, Trey Jones has those qualities too. But what about some of these other guys? What are they going to take from? And obviously they're going to get better at those things too, having Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul in the locker room with them. But, how do some of these other athletic pieces fit? And how do they develop, also thinking globally or, macro instead of micro when they get the basketball? It's not just me driving to the basket. And if I'm I'm doubled up there at the end. I got to kick it out or whatever it is. You're thinking about where everybody is on the floor. And there are some guys on this roster that have a lot of growth that needs to happen in that regard.
I definitely think, getting back to the original conversation, that Wemby is, I feel a little bit bad for him because all the pressure in the world, just not in San Antonio, but the pressure of the NBA is being heaped upon a 20-year-old shoulders. And there's no other 20-year-old that I would want to have that pressure on, because he has the right mindset. He has the mental capacity to kind of compartmentalize that stuff. And he has the skill on the court to live up to all of those expectations. But as a whole, as a basketball community, to put all of those pressures on a 20-year-old phenom seems a little bit much for me, especially going into just his second season.
It's fair.
Bob, anything before we move on to the Cowboys?
I disagree. We don't know what kind of a leader he is yet.
I think that we do. I think that we have seen the kind of leader that he is, this kind of leader that he can be. And we're going to get to see that even more this season, because the emphasis is more on winning now and not on, okay, does Jeremy work at point guard? Does this experimental lineup work? Does this experimental lineup work? We're going to have more of this lineup is our starting lineup. This is who we're playing kind of thing.
Like the team I saw last year, they did not look to him for leadership. In fact, I almost think they kind of.
I think that's fair too. I mean, I think it's tough when you're talking about coming in playing with grown men, right? You're going to let a teenager come in and kind of rule the roost in that regard. You have to earn your stripes. I think to Victor's benefit last year, that for all the good that he did, there was a lot of bad and a lot of growth that was taking place too. And I don't remember him ever getting creamed by the masses or everybody turning on him. There was a grace period, as you would think that there would be and should be for younger players. You just wonder, when is that going to reach a certain point where everybody goes, hey, I thought this was going to translate in wins. And if it doesn't, you may see the narrative slightly switch.
And if they're 30 and 52 this year, you might see that narrative switch a little bit. If they're a team that's getting blown out and kind of has an 18-game losing streak again, and you don't see that improvement on the floor, I think the narrative will switch a little bit. I don't foresee that happening, because I think the over-under is, 36.5 for their win total this year. I think they might get to 40, 41, be a play-in team potentially. So I don't foresee that kind of happening. But if it does, if they're 22 and 60, like they were the last 2 years, or they're 30 and 52, 32 and 50, maybe you do see that narrative change.
I guess sometimes we're in a bubble here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who said, or who gave them the odds of 1% chance of making the playoffs?
ESPN.
Okay. I mean, that's that would be a little concerning, but I'm not saying that ESPN's the end all be all, but I wonder, I don't think they came to that conclusion, did they, by just spitballing?
No, it's their BPI, their basketball power index ratings and stuff like that.
Okay.
So let's get to the answer to the trivia question first before we get to the Cowboys. So 3 NBA players have won the MVP in their second season in the league. I have all 3 right here.
Can I look and let's see?
You cannot see my paper.
Come on, I told you I wouldn't look it up, even though you gave me a head start.
I will give you a cutoff year.
Okay.
The first, or the most recent one, was the 1970-71 season.
Lord. Okay, so Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Bob Cousy.
None of those are right. Actually, Bill Russell's right.
Okay.
That's all I got. Anybody?
No.
Bueller?
I got nothing.
All right. Second season for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay.
He's 7-time MVP. He won in his second and third seasons. 70 and 71 it was his second season in the league.
You should have probably gotten that one.
Yeah, that one was probably the easiest.
Gimme.
Bill Russell is another one. 57-58 season. It's his second year in the league. No, and Bob Pettit.
Bob Pettit.
55-56.
Would have never guessed
first
Bob Pettit.
MVP award.
Okay.
Was Bob Pettit in 56 or 55-56 season. Come on, Chuck. I think Don would have gotten that. So that's why I prepped.
You think you would have gotten Bob Pettit?
I know he would have gotten Kareem.
I think you would have gotten Kareem.
Well, you got.
I think
Bill.
you would have gotten Bill Russell.
I think between the 3 of you would have gotten it. That's why I gave.
Well, between the 3 of us being all done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm not going to give us that much grace. No.
I think I tried to help it out, but here we go. Let's get to some Cowboys. Remember, download, rate, review the podcast. Download.
So what you're saying is it's a pretty long odds that Victor doesn't win MVP in his second year.
Yeah, pretty much. I would not bet that he wins the MVP, especially on a 40-win team or less. So let's get to the Cowboys. They're kind of searching for answers coming off the bye week. They play San Francisco, who has their number in more ways than one. They're coming out of the bye at 3-3, but if you ask the mainstream media, if you ask fans, in a lot of cases, if you ask me, I think the season's basically done. Sorry, I still have this cough that I'm trying to get through. Season's basically done. They've taken a lot of criticism, especially over the last week, especially from people that are close to the organization, legends within the organization, like Troy Aikman, who says that CD and all the receivers run horrible routes, and that's why Dak is throwing these red zone picks, because the routes are just god awful. Before we get your take on that, let's hear from Coach McCarthy real quick, who spoke a little bit earlier this morning about the outside noise in Troy Aikman's comments specifically.
You start to hear the criticism that's just naturally going to build outside the building, even having Troy Aikman and his comments. Do you feel the need to address those with the players at any point?
I don't. I think you address them as a whole, because it's all part of that external focus that, frankly, we need to move away from. It's part of working here, and it's part of our landscape. So, yeah, for me to address those comments, I don't, because they don't carry any weight with me, because I watch all the tape. I get to go to the meetings. I'm at practice. I'm part of the games, so I have a clear understanding of what and where. And in Troy's statement in particular, I don't agree with the word selection, but there is definitely need for improvement in every position.
Yeah, there's need for improvement, and there's need for you to run better routes. Because I would defer to Troy. Obviously, he's played a lot of football. He's seen a lot of routes run, and he is one of the best analysts out there of football. But if Troy says it, people are going to listen, and he's probably not wrong.
No, I don't think he is wrong either. And I think McCarthy just said in not so many words that we've got to be better, and there probably are some areas. And we've talked about this about 9 on this show, right? The way he's the fastest guy, he's the quickest guy, he's the twitchiest guy. He even talks fast.
Yeah.
Everything about Turpin, is it's at another speed that you and I will never ever get to, right? So, he's a raw player, but if that can ever be harnessed, or where he is running better routes, but still, even having said that, and the guy's open a lot.
Well, the entire position group is young and raw.
Yes.
CD is one of the best receivers in the league, and I don't want my words to be parsed here, because that is a fact. That's a given. He's paid like one of them because he is one of them. But I would defer to Troy, saying he doesn't run great routes, and that's part of the reason that him and Dak aren't on the same page on a lot of things. And him missing training camp probably didn't help. It's different when you look at things like Aaron Donald, who who missed training camp multiple times and then came in and was a game wrecker. Okay, well, D-line is a little bit less intricate than wide receiver is. You have to have perfect timing, especially in Mike McCarthy's system, to work a lot of these things out. And when you don't have perfect timing, it ends up with red zone interceptions. Some of them are purely Dak's fault, and that's on him. But some of them, including one of the most key ones against Pittsburgh, was all on CD. And you need that improvement. You need that connection with your quarterback. And if you're not running crisp routes, then this is the impact.
Yeah, they've got a lot of work to do in that area for sure. And again, I think both guys can be right. McCarthy can't go out and say, yes, I 100% rubber stamp what Troy Aikman just said.
He's like, yeah, we freaking suck.
You can't, you're not going to drag your own guys under the bus. Clearly, there's room for improvement, not only with the receiving core, but with every other position group in that building. There
needs to be a lot of improvement. There also needs to be some more health, because that's one of the huge reasons that they're 3-3 is because this is a decimated football team in terms of health. So hopefully when we get the injury reports this week, Deron Bland isn't on there, and he's coming back from an injury. You have Kendricks back. You might have Micah Parsons back. Hopefully DeMarcus Lawrence comes back within the next couple of weeks. You need to get your top end players back because of how young this team is underneath them. As far as coming off of the bye week, Coach Max says they'll be spending a lot more time in groups, less on individual work, less in individual meetings, and individual drills, but more in 7-on-7, more on the team periods, more on inside runs, stuff like that during practice. This is what he had to say during the press conference today.
We got to get away from as many individual meetings. We need more group because our connection between position needs to be higher. You can talk about details and buzzword the hell out of these conversations, but the reality of it is that if the connection between the positions doesn't increase, then the unit production is not going to be where we want it to be. So that's really, going through with a fine tooth. You still only have the same amount of work days. You still only have the same amount of work hours, but it's specifics of how can we be better. And, that's probably one of the biggest adjustments we'll make as far as our training regimen.
When it comes to that, I mean, this team hasn't acquired anybody. So this is the part I really don't understand about that comment is this team, it's not like there's new guys all over the place. It's a lot of young guys. But those young guys, Tyler Guyton, Cooper Beebe, all those guys have been working with the offensive line and starting on the offensive line ever since the beginning of training camp. So if you haven't built up that chemistry yet, I don't really know why you're having these connection issues.
Well, it's a long season, right? And so you would think that they're going to be better at some point as a group. But some of those guys on the defensive side of the ball weren't even in camp in mid-August. So, in some respects, there probably needs to be more emphasis on what they're doing as a team as opposed to what they're doing as individual groups. And at this point, I'm sure holding, coaches responsible for their, what their group is or isn't doing. So we'll see. I mean, the bad thing about the bye, the good thing is you get an extra week to get healthy. The bad news is that you got to be out, bless you. You got to be out of the building, I think, for 4 days. So how much extra work can you then do to fix some of the problems that you're having?
Mac also said that he was in the building the entire week last week.
I don't doubt it.
He did not take a vacation. I just don't know how that's going to help them against the Niners too, because the Niners have had their number. Like it seems, I know it's simple to say, but they can't beat the Niners. They haven't. They've tried with so many iterations of this team, and they can't do it. They can't stop a Kyle Shanahan offense at all on defense. And so going into San Francisco coming off a brutal loss yesterday against the Chiefs, where the Chiefs kind of took them apart on the ground. Dallas isn't that team. Dallas isn't a team that can take you apart on the ground. So I don't know how all this group period is going to help them in that game.
Well, I think if you're going to be playing the 49ers, this is the time to be playing them. And I think also too, when the schedule comes out, this is one of those games that they really, really game planned and schemed for during the course of the offseason. I think this game will be treated and was treated during the offseason like a division matchup with a lot of emphasis on it, knowing that this was going to be probably a very pivotal game in terms of not only playoff implications, but also possibly tiebreakers. So a game like this gets more attention because it's not, quote unquote, the uncommon opponent. So we'll see. I think it helps that they had a week off. And I think it also helps that San Francisco, as banged up as they are, got even more banged up.
Yeah,
so
Brandon Ayuk
we can cry the Cowboys a river with in terms of how banged up they are, but all these teams are all dealing with the same thing right about now. And a lot of this during the course of the season, and McCarthy's talked about this before, it's when do you play a team matters a lot, right? You don't want to play a team like this when they're 100% and rolling. I mean, this is the time. If there's a chance to right a wrong in this series, now is the time to then go do it.
I agree. If you want to play San Francisco, it's this week, because I don't know this actually. Trent Williams, he got ejected for throwing a punch at the end of yesterday's game against the Chiefs. Does that mean he's out the next week?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how the league is.
That'd be good for the Cowboys. I just don't know the rule there.
Yeah.
I know if you get ejected in a college game, you miss like the first half of the next game for the targeting rule and stuff like that. I just don't know how it works in the NFL. We're going to talk more about that on Thursday as well. Plus, we'll get to the high school hype squad on Thursday too. We needed to get a little sound from Mark Soto and Coach over at
Coach McCarthy.
Yep, exactly. So let's get to UTSA first, and then we will get on out of here. So the Roadrunners, they won this past weekend against all odds. This might be the most injured team in the entire nation. They have 5 players now, 6 players out for the season already. JT Clark, I feel so bad for the kid because he worked for almost 3 years to come back from a knee injury. And then his first catch in his second game back gets a helmet to the other knee and tears his ACL.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little yesterday. I mean, my heart absolutely bleeds for this guy.
He was going to be a third-round pick.
He was given mid-round grades, decided to come back to UTSA, and then the injuries started happening. I mean, it's literally a story about, those that feel like they have a chance to go to the NFL, and then there's always the roll of the dice about trying to improve your draft stock. I mean, it's a brutal sport, and it can end play to play, as you know. And so the fact that JT is going to have to go through this again, I mean, if there's anybody that can come back from yet another setback,
it's him.
It's JT. But I mean, obviously, everybody that's a fan of UTSA and knows a little bit about this story and how much work he's put in and what kind of guy he is, what kind of a team guy he is. He comes back for all those reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a team guy, wants to keep the ball rolling here, and this is the other side of that, and it is really, really painful to know that he's going to have to walk that road again
on the other
everything
knee
that
too.
It means. Yes.
Coach Traylor talked about it a little bit today. This is when he told the media that JT Clark was done for the season, and apparently he told JT, and they found out yesterday. So this is what Coach said today.
Yeah, it's the team meeting yesterday, and he's JT, man. He's the most one of the most amazing humans I've ever met in my life. Same beautiful smile, same positive attitude. Man, lift him up. That's a lot on a young man, and there's not a better kid out there than JT Clark.
Is it possible that he could have future eligibility in college, or where does this go from here?
We think we'll be able to pull that off. We feel pretty positive about that. We'll see. We'll see what he wants to do and what all his plans are. I haven't spoken to him. He just found out yesterday. So I didn't think that was the time to be going there mentally with him yet. So we'll see what he wants to do, and we'll see what the future looks like for JT.
I mean, it's about the kid's health first and not his football career. But I was hoping all season that he would get back at some point, that he would have, 4, 5, 6, 7 games under his belt, and that maybe he would leave and go to the NFL afterwards, go to the Senior Bowl, hopefully earn a spot and get onto an NFL roster. But now having to go through another year of rehab, probably 9-10 months to come back from an ACL surgery. You don't know what your NFL prospects are after that, but NFL and college football goes on the back burner. It's all about his health at this point.
Absolutely. And there are plenty of examples of guys like Priest Holmes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tore ACLs twice in college, wasn't drafted because of that, and then went out and had I think most of us around here believe, a Hall of Fame career, even though right now he's definitely right on the precipice of not there yet. So it can be done. But again, it's mentally, where is JT want to go with this, right? Does he want to do this for a third time? Especially when, the first time it was pretty bad news. Like, this is not.
It was almost a career ender, that first knee injury.
Right. So, blessings to him. And I know this about JT Clark: whatever he decides to do in life, whether it's football or anything else, with his loyalty, with what kind of guy he is, with what kind of player he is, he's going to be a success, because he's going to take all of these motivating forces that he loves about football. He's going to find something else he loves and bring the same passion towards it. And so he'll be a career great at something.
Yeah, can't say it better than that. This is also Coach Traylor speaking today about how his team persevered even through all these injuries. They've lost so many players. I think they've lost 5, 6 starters on each side of the ball. They only have 4 scholarship receivers healthy right now. So this is Coach after the game about the mood of the players after a win against FAU.
They're really about the same. They're happier. They're smiling. Don't get me wrong, but they were all here and attentive and learning. And there's a no matter how the season ends up, the way that our kids held together after those 2 crushing road losses, I don't know. There's a way you can describe how painful those losses were back to back. 2 teams that we thought we were going to win, to be honest with you, and we didn't get it done. So they haven't splintered at all. and we're in another ball game. I think starting the East Carolina game, I believe we were down maybe 10, possibly 14 even maybe, and we rallied back and should have won that game. The Rice game, I believe we were down. I don't know what it was. We were down. Kids rallied back. This game we were tied, and it's 3 games in a row. We're going to the 4th. I don't know if we've been winning any of them. Y'all would probably know that better than I would. But our kids just keep competing and keep trying to scrap and claw, and that's what I'm most proud of, is how they've hung together. But they're happier, but it wasn't like anything crazy.
And your treat for winning last game is getting Memphis this week. So,
and they scored a lot of points last week, right?
Yeah, them in North Texas hit the over in like the second quarter. It was bad. I can't say enough about Jeff and the way that he treats this team, the way he loves his players, and this team is just. I say that Greeny on ESPN says this about NFL teams all the time, but it's true in all sports. There's a couple of teams every year whose season gets derailed because of injuries. And this is what happened to UTSA this year. You already have a sophomore quarterback in Owen McCown that's trying to bring this team up and build a successful career. And he needed everyone to be healthy. He needed the senior leadership from Oscar and from Jamal and from JT. And he needed all of those things. And he's just been snake bitten by the injuries so bad that I feel bad for that they're going through this. But I do feel pretty confident in saying that getting all of the young guys reps, like they're seeing right now with Overmeyer's touchdown and with Brandon Hye's touchdown this past week and with Jamal Hardy's touchdown this past week, that you'll see the fruits of that labor take effect next year.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always the benefit of, when you have this many guys decimated, right? Somebody's going to get some playing time, and somebody's going to pop through that maybe you didn't see coming and is going to be even better maybe than the person that they're replacing. Maybe it doesn't happen as often as you like, but there's going to be some of that too.
So last thing before we get out of here, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I got some information while we've been doing this in my fantasy league with my brothers-in-law, with some of their friends, and my wife. I'm the commissioner, or I'm co-commissioner with Jay Elder, my wife's brother. And he made a trade this past weekend. He got Saquon Barkley, and the person he traded with gave him George Pickens, Steelers defense, and Tony Pollard. Okay trade, but he's already 5-1, and he needs a really good running back. So 5 people in the league, that trade went through. 5 people in the league this morning vetoed it, and so now he's pissed. Come to find out from my other brother-in-law, Jackson, who has some information that Jay colluded with this other person, saying, we need to take down Jackson and Matt because we have the other 2 best teams in the league. We need to take down Jackson and Matt, and you need to give me Saquon Barkley, and I'll give you some other guys so I can take them down. What should the punishment for Jay be in this fantasy
I don't
league?
know. You're going to have to drag that into court because that could be hearsay.
It's collusion. We have the text messages from said brother-in-law to read. I'm outing all these people right now.
What was the trophy for?
Yeah, you shouldn't do that because they're not here to defend themselves too.
I don't care about them defending themselves. This is collusion, and
remember,
this
you're in a family, and sometimes you have to work through some troubled waters because you're a family. So I don't know that this is the right place to be doing this.
I think it is. Jay, you're screwed. Your ass is grass. The punishment for last place is removal from the league, and we swap one in every year. So the punishment for last place is removal of the league, and you have to wear a last place license plate on your car. I think since Jay's colluding to try and win, he should be automatically in last place. That's what
all I know is
it's a little harsh.
All I can think of is the Shiva and the Sacco.
What?
From the league? You ever watched the league? It's about no,
I never watched the league, to be honest.
Gosh,
I couldn't get into it. I tried, but I couldn't get into it. But anyway, have you guys ever had someone collude on you during the league? Like this team's 5-1. He's really good. Like his team is solid. He has 2 defenses and 2 kickers on his team. I don't know how he's really good, but he's really good. And he's colluding to get Saquon to win the league, to take down his brother and his brother-in-law. This is unacceptable.
I would let the cosmic universe take care of this. Let's see what Saquon does the rest of the year after this trade.
The trade did get vetoed, and
That's too bad.
Now he's upset.
I say let it go through and let's see what happens. We'll settle this on the field.
I say I go trade for Saquon now. That's what should happen. I think in all of this, the punishment should be I get Saquon. That's what's funnier though is I'm playing him this week, and if I win, I'll be in first place. If he wins, he'll continue to be in first place. And I'm down by like 4 points, and I have Marvin Harrison Jr. tonight. So,
let's see
if he plays,
we'll see how the cosmic universe responds to both sides. Then, yes.
If I was wrong to mention this on the podcast, Marvin Harrison is going to be out with a concussion tonight.
Do not speak it into existence.
All right. Well, Jay, we're on to your scheme, and I just wanted.
Jay, I'm Switzerland in all this.
No, he told me off camera you're screwed.
No, I didn't.
That's all we got for today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Join us on Thursday. Full breakdown of the Spurs' upcoming season and what we think is going to happen there. We'll do predictions over under. We'll do playoff predictions. We do all that stuff. Plus, we got week 9 of the High School Hype Squad and TNL matchup breakdown on Thursday as well. Until then, see everyone on Thursday.